O cinema não vai acabar. Pelo contrário, ele nunca esteve tão presente nas nossas vidas. Mas como continuar atraindo o espectador para as salas quando as opções de entretenimento são tantas? Se a tarefa exigia criatividade antes da pandemia, no cenário atual ela é ainda mais desafiadora. Quem pode nos dar ótimas ideias sobre isso é o Angelika Film Center, de Nova York. Nascido no final dos anos 80 como uma opção de cinema e café, se tornou um ponto de encontro essencial para quem curte cinema independente e de vanguarda. Fez tanto sucesso que hoje é uma rede com várias salas em várias cidades americanas. Aliás, hoje faz parte da Reading International, companhia que tem cinemas também na Austrália e na Nova Zelândia. Denise Hughes, diretora de programação especial do Angelika Film Center, conversou conosco sobre o cinema antes, durante e pós-pandemia e falou da força do audiovisual latino e brasileiro. E ela também apontou soluções inteligentes para se ter o cinema sempre cheio, seja presencialmente ou online. Confira.
When I joined the company, the idea was to create like a space, a unique programming during the week and off times just to drive attendance. So, Monday through Thursday mostly, how to get people to the theater, and besides booking, ballet, opera, what live theater, what else it's out there. So we were able to book films that maybe didn't make, or they wouldn't work for an entire week run of theatrical, but they have an audience for a couple of days. So those films that sometimes go to a festival and they sell out, and then they don't have any more shows. So we were able to open up that space for them. So we started doing also fun activities and special events at the theater, because we realized that in order to get people to the theater, it's not enough to just play a film. If you're just playing a film, people are going to watch Netflix at home. It just needs to be an event. And that's what we try to do with every single thing that I program. We're trying not only to just do like one screening, but do events that are they're also interesting to the public. For that event, we had people lining for days around the block. It was pretty amazing. Like, we had a beautiful year planned ahead of us with all these great series and events and fun things for not only adults but for kids, and but we had to stop. So for us as exhibitors, it was a shock, because we had to close, and all the means of revenue and all of our activities got canceled overnight. But we had to adapt and see, like, what could we do from home in order to keep offering our audiences content, in which ways we can get content that is still, like, it's in line with our curation.
In order to find new ways to adapt, you had to have a lot of creativity, isn't it?
It didn't come from us, I have to say. We got approached by some distributors. I think like the first two companies to do it was Magnolia and Kino Lorber, that they created this virtual theatrical concept where they were offering, like, they had films that, an oscilloscope too. They approached, I think they were the first ones who approached us. We were playing St. Francis at the Angelika, and I think it was in the first week when it opened, like, we had to close the theater. So they said, okay, what if we just give you a link, you send the link to all your mailing list, and then we do a revenue share of the streaming. So this is what they start calling virtual theatricals. So we've been sort of opening, we still like use all the terms, like the theatrical terms, but we'd be opening like 2 or 3 films a week. And and it's been good. It's been a good experience. So we had some sort of revenue come in. At the beginning were films that we were playing at the theater when it closed, and then distributors had other films that they were about to get released, and when they saw that, you know, we weren't opening anytime soon, they start offering it as a virtual theatrical, and then more and more distributors start offering their films. We're not sure how this is going to work once we open theaters again. At the Angelika, we have a very strict policy of like a 90-day theatrical window. I do think that this new concept can work for certain type of films moving forward. In the past few years, I don't know if in Brazil is the same thing, but here in the US, in the past 4 years, most theaters are converting to recliners. So some studios require more auditoriums for one film, so that's kind of pushing out smaller films out of the theater, because you need to have bigger theaters or bigger films, more time at the theater. And then it's all about tentpoles for the commercial theater, so it doesn't seem to be a lot. There doesn't seem to be a lot of room left for mid-size and smaller films. And some films, they would do good, they would do well at an art house, or they would do okay at an art house, but they just there's no room to place them. Moving forward, this could be like a good model for those films. Like if instead of going straight to VOD, they could just go to this virtual theatrical model. There's other, and that would benefit from a lot of other art house theaters across the country. So let's say like a film gets a run of 80, 100 art house theaters in the country. Now all of a sudden maybe you can have the audience of 300, because you're not taking space, but then you're part of the mailing list, so you have a better reach across the country. We are not sure what's going to happen, how we're going to handle these virtual theatrical once we open. We're still in conversations. We don't know how it fits in our model. This is something that I think everyone is trying to kind of get a clear understanding of how it's going to happen. This virtual theatrical, it was made up. It's not in the agreements, in the distribution agreements, it just doesn't exist. So I think certain films are violating rights that they have with the streaming companies, but because this was like an idea to help theaters out, so they wouldn't have to close, everyone was sort of okay with it. But once theaters open, I'm not sure if like the iTunes or Amazons are going to be okay with theaters having this. So I think that's something that we'll see how it gets solved. And if distributors start adding this virtual theatrical as a window, we know that we are going to keep the 90-day window and we're not going to break it. So we don't know exactly how this is going to fit, but it's exciting to see that how all of a sudden there is a space for certain kind of films that before wouldn't have to go straight to VOD and get lost, and now they maybe have a new life out there. We like to feature new voices, themes that are, that they're resonant, like they matter at a specific time. So we like to program those films. We like to also, from time to time, we do program things that are a little bit more challenging and edgy. And that's a lot of fun to see how people respond to that. And then we're also loyal to our certain directors that we follow, and we follow their careers. We like quality theater, like films, more than anything. So, and quality films are anything that would make you think for a bit, just make you stop and say, what am I watching? Like, why? Like, anything that whether it's like it speaks to you in a positive or negative way, or like, but it challenges you and makes you think in a way, and opens your eyes to different points of view. So we look for that, and we're not afraid of subtitles. So we play a lot of, for like, it's like almost like half or more of our films are international films. So
how do you think this pandemic and the lockdown experience and VOD streaming increasing will influence on it, like our habits, or not being afraid of foreign films, not being afraid of like a Latin American film, or a Latin American audience not being afraid of, you know, Asian films, Russian films?
I think that it's going to take a little bit of time for people to feel comfortable going back to the movie theaters. It's going to take a time to build that, but I don't think that the theatrical experience is done by any means. Movie theaters, or like going to the movie theater, is still the cheapest activity that you can do. It's cheaper than going to a restaurant. It's cheaper than going to the movie theater, to a concert. So it's still cheaper than any of those options. And how many films can you watch at home? At some point, you're going to want to go out. We don't have an opening date yet. We're going to announce it pretty soon, but we don't know. It's going to be in July, but we don't have a date yet. But we're working really hard. We're changing a lot of things in the theater, just to make sure that both like our employees and our guests everyone's safe and people feel comfortable.
We are discussing that maybe smaller films that invest more on drama stories, they are going to be more successful because we are out of money right now. Not only the public funds, but the production houses, the big studios. How do you see this?
The best cinema in Latin America of the past 2 decades was in the early 2000s, when the like what we had, like this wave of new Latin cinema, and like Argentina, Chile, Brazil, and it was great. Everyone was in a crisis. Argentina was like destroyed, and the stories and the cinema that came out was amazing. And with that, like, we had like a whole new wave and a whole new resurgence of Latin American cinema in the world. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But when you have less explosions, you need to focus on the story, and you know, and then like you need to be more creative, you need to be more resourceful. So yeah, it is very, very true and probable that we're gonna have like one set, almost theater like films, but you know, it's all about the story. So who knows? Cinema, to me, it's an important way of communicating, and then just like getting together at a distance in a way.
Do you remember any Brazilian film that was in Angelika Film Center?
This is not the latest one, but we did play Aquarius. No. We played My Second Mother also for a very long time. But one of the highest grossing films ever, I think it's one of the top 5 films, highest, is Central Station. Bacurau, we played as this virtual theatrical. It went very well. Yeah, that was one of the first ones that we offered, and we had played Aquarius, so we were able to sell it that way and said, you've seen Aquarius at our theaters, this is the latest film, and yeah, it went very well.
We are facing a big crisis now in terms of funds, public funds in Brazil. We have a big challenge because our public system of financing films, it's kind of blocked.
Brazilian films from the early 2000s are just marvelous. Like in the from 2000 to 2008 and 9, they were like, is one of my favorite periods of Brazilian cinema. So I think like you guys have a lot to look forward to in terms of creative, you know, you have amazing filmmakers and producers, and so, you know, That's great stuff coming with or without money. For sure, like this, the new Latin American cinema was helped by all the public funds and all the film institutes that all of a sudden made all this money available to make films. That's no question about it. But that came all of a sudden, like after many years of not having anything. But now we had 20 years of structure. There's a procedure. There's like all these resources. There's no money, but everything else still exists. So now it's like, how do you make it happen with not so much money, but all the other things being equal? And I think like the other thing that happened in the last 20 years is like all these co-production opportunities for Latin American cinema that we didn't have before. There's a lot more people, or a lot more European companies and production companies interested in participating and developing projects in Latin America. So yeah, it would be great to have public funds. That's no question, and it's important because it helps. It's part of the cultural of a country. It helps in so many ways, but I think that we're not as bad as we were in 2000. Now we had 20 years of a learning curve, like of figuring out how to just go out in the world and be able to produce good films. So I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful for what's to come. It's not going to be easy, but for anyone in the production level, the distribution, exhibition, like it's not going to be easy for anyone. But I think like people still like films. And what was the number one entertainment during the pandemic? Watching films. People at home, what were they doing? They were watching films. So it doesn't matter one way or another one. Films at home and the theater is still what people like to do the best. So there's a future. It's going to be hard for everyone, but we need to figure out how to make it happen, basically.
Construir o futuro do cinema não vai ser tarefa fácil e vai exigir a união dos profissionais de todas as áreas do audiovisual, mas com certeza vai valer a pena. Fique ligado, que mais ideias e conversas inspiradoras ainda vêm por aí.